You know, there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. The Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey, this is Adam, the drummer from Pistols at Dawn, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka The Bodfather, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Adam Jaffe, drummer of Pistols at Dawn, and they have released their debut album, Ascension, via distributor Megaforce Records, MRI Entertainment. Check out singles Under the Surface, The Truth, Fly, and Voices that are out right now. Also check out their EP, Nocturnal Youth, that's also out as of right now. So, Adam, how you doing, man? And welcome to the podcast.
The Bodfather, I like that. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome, my friend. How excited are you guys to have this debut album, Ascension, out right now, man? How good does it feel to finally have this out?
I can't even tell you. We wrote this album over a year ago, and so, you know, with all the different production things that you have to go through, the different label things you have to go through, to finally actually get it out, have it being heard, have people really digging it, getting it reviewed and stuff. It's just, I can't even tell you. It feels damn good. It's kind of like having the knife and the fork and the ketchup and no steak, and here we go. We got the steak now.
2019, the band came back together with a new lineup. Did that start firing on all cylinders during that time? Let's talk about that just for a little bit.
Yeah, well, it was crazy because we got back together in 19. We decided we'd really make a run at it, put our heads down, not take no for an answer no matter what until we got as far as we could possibly go with this band. And here we go, we're growing, everything's going amazingly. We put out our singles, people are digging it, and boom, there's this cool thing called the pandemic. It hits like 3 months in, right? And then there's a total world goddamn shutdown, right? So we had to make a decision at that point. Okay, well, we just decided 3 months ago to put our heads down, and so we just said to hell with it. We're putting our heads down, and we engaged literally with like 1 million people throughout the pandemic. We went in the studio during the worst part of the pandemic. We were like sitting in different areas of the room with our producer, and you know, we put our heads down, we wrote the EP Nocturnal Youth, and then immediately we started writing Ascension because you couldn't tour or anything, so we just kept writing. And you know, between 19 and now, it's been a long road to hoe, but we've got singles, we've got EP, we've got Ascension, and we're ready to basically tour the earth and not stop ever.
What led the track Voices to be the first song released off this album? What was it about that said that has to be the first one coming out for us?
Yeah, so when we did the EP Nocturnal Youth and during the pandemic, and we were writing it, and you know, it was funny, we couldn't even like post that we were rehearsing because during that part of the pandemic, you know, they were saying stay away from each other. Yeah. And we were just like, hell no, we've got to play music. And you know, I wore a mask while I was playing the drums. It was crazy. But I remember the day that my guitarist Devin White started playing the riff to Voices, and it was just one of those special magical moments that he just started playing it, and I was just like, hell yes. And I just started playing the beats that you hear on the actual record, and it just came together literally in about 30 minutes. It was one of those songs that we just put it together, and it was just like we knew we had something there, and that's why it had to be the first single off of the EP.
And you know, the crazy part, man, this lead single generated 1 million plays across platforms in under a month. 30 seconds to you hearing this, and now it's got all these plays in under a month. That is insane.
Yeah, man, it was cool. We did the video, and we had like 1,000 candles in this tiny little room, and we put it out, and we knew we had something special, and so we pushed it hard, and 3 weeks later we were at 1 million hits, and we're blessed to this day that we have it.
Do you think this album challenged you guys, though, through all this? The whole pandemic threw at us all?
Yes, I would say that writing the EP through the pandemic and writing the debut album, Ascension, through the pandemic was one of the great challenges of our lives, and getting the production done and getting the mixing done and the mastering done and the writing done. There's 10 billion little parts you have to put together to do an album or even an EP. And with a pandemic and so many people shut down throughout that period and so much negative crap going on in the world, it was very difficult, very challenging. Our own band members, like there's certain band members that were just going through things during the writing of the album. I'll save for another time, but it was hard, and that's why the fact that we're on the other side, that's why we called it Ascension. We called the debut album Ascension, is because we have ascended to the goddamn top of the pit. And that's why if you look at the cover of our album, Devin had the suggestion. He was just like, dude, it's got to be, Nocturnal Youth, we were in the pit of hell trying to get out. We were being dominated. That if you see the cover of Nocturnal Youth, you see that. You see the cover of Ascension. Actually it was my wife, Allie. She named the album. We were trying to come up with names, and it was just everything we wanted it to be positive and coming out of the darkness, and that's how we named the album and drew the cover.
So was there anything left off of Nocturnal Youth CP that made this album?
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. We definitely had some tracks that we'd been messing around with for years. And it's always like that. You have tracks that you touched on, you kind of didn't do, you liked, you didn't like, versions, this, that, the other. And I'll be honest with you, when we finished Ascension and now we're, eventually once we really get into it, we already have tracks for the next album.
That's good.
Yeah, well that's a positive of the pandemic. And so we've got several tracks coming into the next album, and we've always got things running.
I love hearing those backstories, because you could have an EP that's your debut one, but yet you've got songs 15 to 20 years that just made that debut album. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool to hear stuff like that. And everybody's like, these are all brand new. Well, maybe brand new to us, but hell for you all.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I would say that the majority of the riffs on the new album, or the majority of many of the drum beats on the new album, these were things that we messed around with and tinkered with for years, and then finally just decided, you know what, it's time to finish this song.
Yeah, it's time to let the baby grow.
Exactly.
This is Cris Hodges' vocal debut album. What has he brought to the band that may have been missing, if anything? And I'm not knocking the other vocalists or anything like that. I'm just saying, what has he brought to this band that's gave you that spark, maybe?
To be completely upfront, when we wrote the album during the latter half of the worst part of the pandemic, we had another singer who was singing with the band. His name was Chris Pearson. Chris did a very good job. We actually used his vocals on Ascension, and then we knew we were going to tour coming out of it, and Chris just didn't fit what we were doing. And so we scoured the earth, went to LA, found the best session singer on earth, who happens to be one of the best tribute singers on earth. He sings for one of the best Linkin Park tribute bands in the world. His name is Cris Hodges. And Chris has now taken our band to a whole nother place. He's a gift from God, touched by the gods, and we can't wait to unleash him on the world. And that's starting Monday.
Do you guys feel that this album possibly, like, hitting your stride, maybe the maturity has come out in this band possibly, or are you guys just scratching that surface so far?
Ascension was definitely maturity. How do I put this? We probably wrote the album in 12 weeks. The vocals took another 8 months. That was the painful part. But it came out of us in 12 weeks, and we knew we had leveled up. We had our singles, and they were one level. We had our EP, it was another level. But when we wrote the album, we knew we were like big time adults now. We had entered the major leagues with Ascension, and we knew we had tracks like The Truth, which is on Billboard and all the other charts now. And we have at least probably 4 or 5 other singles we're going to take to radio. Not a lot of bands take more than 1 single to radio off their album, maybe 2 if they're lucky. We're going to take 4 minimum, because we know we've got radio hits or radio tracks that we can hopefully turn into radio hits.
Was there a song that you guys were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Was there one that just kept changing, or no?
Well, the song that's on the radio right now, and that's being widely spread, is called "The Truth." And when we wrote "The Truth," Devin and I wrote it as a very kind of heavy, grungy rock song. And when the vocals were put on it and the melody was put on it, it was kind of turned into this kind of poppy rock song, which is why it became our first radio track for this album. And it sounds completely different than anything we ever imagined in 100,000 years. I will definitely say that. We also wrote a song called "Getaway," my friend. And let me tell you, "Getaway" has a chorus in it we never saw coming in a million years. And that's what happens. You know, we write the music. We can write a song in 5 seconds. But then once the vocals are put on it and the melodies put on it, man, it is a whole new world. But that's what makes music so cool, is that, you know, it's the combination of all the variety of visions within the band. And once everybody puts their touch on them, they evolve into something that you may not have thought about, but it's so cool in the end. Any
tracks standing out more to you than any right now on the new album? I know these are your babies. I understand that. But are there any tracks that stick out for you personally?
Yeah. You know, our first 3 videos that we put out for this are "The Truth." That was a really amazing, cool, you know, we used a bunch of virtual stuff for that. Powerful, and it really showed Cris Hodges. It kind of introduced the world to Cris Hodges and what he's capable of. And "Under the Surface" and "Fly" we did videos for too. And "Under the Surface" is probably our best video ever. If you've seen it, it's just one of those things where we had an idea of what we wanted to happen with the workers and this environment where you're pissed off at work and everything's just kind of bubbling under the surface, and then it explodes. And it kind of, you know, you always have a concept and you hope it turns out well. Well, this one, when we pushed play on the final product, it just hit it. And that's going to be our second single on the radio. And I just think that's going to be a really special song for us. And then the third one is "Fly." "Fly" is just a cool love song. And, you know, we focused on women in the video and female power, something we didn't anticipate when we were writing the song. Again, just a cool, heavy rock song that started to have love song lyrics. And then we brought these girls in, and it was all about female power, empowering women. And it just turned into something super cool if you've seen the video. And so I'm really just happy that these things are having a lot of impact, rather than just being, you know, cool songs.
How's working with Grammy award-winning producer and engineer Sylvia Massey, who's worked with Tool, System of a Down, and Johnny Cash? How was working with them on this?
Let me just tell you, we were, you know, when you use a super producer, a mega producer, let's call them, you know, you're kind of, I don't know, intimidated. Not intimidated, it's more just you don't know what's going to happen, if they're going to control things, if they're going to be cool. But let me tell you something. She was the coolest person to work with. She and her team, she and Chris and her team, they were the nicest people. When we talked to her about our music, I mean, one of the coolest things about working with her was that she was so into the music and she felt what we were trying to get across. You know, when someone who makes one of the best albums in history, like Tool's biggest album, says to you, your album's pretty damn good, you listen. And she didn't have to say a word to us about anything. You know, she could have just done the job and been done. But we established a rapport. We loved talking with her. She was always so forthcoming. She got our ideas incorporated into it, not just hers. But at the end of the day, I would say what's super cool is that, you know, when you're working with someone who's so talented, they really will put their touch on it. And at the end of the day, we did, in fact, get that on our music, which really led to an even better album than we initially wrote.
So who did the artwork for this amazing album?
Yeah, man. So we have this guy in Moldova, in the country of Moldova, that I found online. Was looking around and trying to find all sorts of cool art. And there's a graphic designer who does metal cover art in Moldova. I forget his name, but you know, he did it for Nocturnal Youth and he killed it. And then, you know, we give him our vision and we go back with 50 drafts and he just does it until we're happy. And, you know, it's unique. It's interesting. It's thought provoking when you look at our covers. We wanted to be one of those bands, you know, kind of like old school Iron Maiden covers and, and Megadeth, and we're not ultra metal like they are, but it's the type of thing where we just wanted it to be interesting and cool. We didn't we don't need a goddamn picture of the band on the cover, We wanted something cool. We're a rock band, dude. We plug in, we play. We don't use tracks. We're a rock band, and so we put on rock shows, heavy rock shows, and we want a heavy rock cover.
And what I like about Iron Maiden and Megadeth is they've got that pattern with their albums. You hit the nail on the head right there. I like albums that portray, their mascots, as I call them, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like seeing that. Yeah, man. It just gives more. It makes it more impactful. It's a whole experience, and that's what our show's like. That's what our show is like too. And we'll be touring starting next week. And we don't intend to stop basically for the next year. And, we're adding tours regularly now. And it's the type of thing where we want people to have that full visceral experience. So you're not going to go see a Pistols at Dawn show, see us get up there, play 5 songs, and sit down. You're going to go and you're going to have an experience from beginning to end. You're going to see solos. You're going to see bells. You're going to see whistles. You're going to see intros. You're going to see all sorts of crap, and it's going to be a rock show. So here's my $1 million question to you, man. Have you guys had that moment to where you're now the guys who reach out to people and your music has affected them by making them feel like they're accepted? They have friends. They could turn to your music and escape for a while, just like you guys did when you were growing up and you had bands to listen to. Now you're on that hot seat. How does that feel if that's happened already? It's definitely happened, and that was one of the coolest things during the worst parts of the pandemic is we were engaging. I was actually communicating and messaging and responding to every single person who messaged us during the pandemic, and which was super cool because we have a lot of supporters now that came about as a result of that. And what we did is we gave them, we put out 10 videos during the pandemic. 8 videos during the pandemic, 2 cents. But 8 videos during the pandemic and like pro videos. And we did that and the EP and the singles. And we did that because we wanted to give people content. Everybody was looking around for stuff to do, stuff to watch, stuff to think about, rather than just their crazy lives. And, getting to hear from people how we affect them is probably the most rewarding part of this. The only thing we haven't really experienced is the touring aspect where we can really see that and feel it. And I'm looking forward to meeting people in person. Like we have a fan club. I'm looking forward to meeting all of them in person and thanking them personally and really getting to know them. And, we want to be a very approachable and engaging band. We're not these superhumans that you can't talk to or touch. We're fucking real people, and we want to be connected to the people that we play for. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. One thing I would mention is that one of the coolest things that's happened recently is that there's this girl upstate New York who is, I think she has some hearing issues, and she's been signing to all of our music and putting up reels online about them. So we've shared some of them. And to see her do signing to our music and, sing the songs with sign language, honestly, that's one of the things that's touched us most. That's awesome. See, connecting with anybody and everybody. Doesn't matter skin color. It does not matter where you're from. That's the beauty of music, man. That's what makes it so great. Amen. And I got to ask this too, and I've said this a lot to the bands who are independent bands who are trying to just get something out there that somebody can grasp onto to recognize them. I told them during the pandemic that this is your time. Everything's on an even playing field now, unless you're like, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, something like that. You know what I mean? But I felt like bands that were indies should have made the most of this pandemic-wise to put your stuff out there. Because like I said, it was an even playing field then. What's your thoughts on that? I would agree with you. I would say that if there was ever a time to give people content is now, and it's been during the pandemic. And now, I think the misconception is that you have to have $1 million to do this gig. That's it. And you don't. You don't. The reality is you need a Wi-Fi, right? You need these new iPhones, and phones can have really good video on them. And you just need to get creative
and you need to go write some music and you need to go record some music. Now, there's a million different producers out there and engineers out there, and they need work too. You don't have to spend what we spent on a Sylvia Massey. You can go get a really strong producer, a really strong engineer for a couple $100 probably. I know some of them. And my point is that go make an album, put it out there, get online, start posting, start engaging. Maybe you get one fan, maybe you get two, maybe you get 100. But one turns into two and turns into 100 if you just keep pushing. And I think the thing that really distinguishes our band, and what the biggest piece of advice I could give to any real indie right now from where we were a couple years back, is that you've got to put your head down and work. I was just talking to my wife earlier today, and I was just like, man, for 2.5 years, it's been a grind for us. And you're trying to add the members of your team, and you're trying to put out the music and do the videos and add this and add that and get a PR rep and get this rep and get that rep and booking agents and all this other stuff. We got it all. I just want to tour. I just want to play music. I just want to connect to people. I am over that shit. But the reality is, if you just put your head down and work, it doesn't matter whether you have 1 million fans. It matters that you're doing it and making music and contributing music to the world and connecting with people because they appreciate it.
I've been doing BODS Mayhem for January will make 13 years. 8 years of it has been online, radio, plus now podcasting. I'm at 933 subscribers on YouTube. I am very, very thankful for every single subscriber. When I hit that 1,000 mark, man, it's going to be beautiful. But every one of those people who takes time out to watch these videos and listen to my crazy ass voice from Kentucky, that means a lot to me, just for somebody to give me a chance.
That says it all, man. It's all about connecting. And whether it's 933 or 9,000 or 10,000 or 100 million, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's the fact that you're doing it, you're connecting, people are feeling it, and they want to be a part of it, and you get to be a part of their lives, and we get to touch people, and that's a blessing.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to these new songs, or just Pistols of Dawn's music in general? What do you hope to get from it?
So we just want to take people away on a trip. I want them to disappear from their lives. If they're listening to our 8-track new album, it takes 35 minutes. You're going to forget about life for 35 minutes when you listen to this. Start to finish, we put no fluff on it. It's 8 tracks. They're about 3.5, 4 minutes each, and you're going to forget life. You're just going to drive fast. You're going to play harder. You're going to work out. Whatever it is you do, you're going to forget life. And that's the point. When they see our show, they're going to see a rock show the way rock shows were meant to be played. Start to finish, no bullshit, no fluff, no crappy songs where you're like, oh shit, I hope they get off the stage soon. Where you see that opener and you're just like, damn, get off the stage and get me to my band already. Hell no. It's going to be one of those things you didn't see coming with us, and we're going to give you the full experience. And when you meet us, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get real people who give a shit and want to connect with other people. No matter how many it is, no matter how big we get, we're not going to change. We're going to be the same. We have been the whole way. And I'm just saying that we just want to connect with people and take them on a ride, because that's how we grew up, going to see our favorite bands and listen to our favorite albums. We could just put our little, it used to be big ones, but we put our headphones on and forget the world for half an hour.
Oh man, those big headphones with the record players and stuff, man. Oh, dude.
There you go.
Those albums and CDs that come out back in the day, they so good. They took you on a trip. Yeah, they took you on a trip, and I'm not knocking any bands out there right now, but there's some just 1,000 miles an hour that, don't get me wrong, I've said this many times, I love the 1,000 miles an hour songs and bands that do that, but eventually I just want that roller coaster ride. I want those peaks and valleys.
Yes. And that's the thing. We wanted to hit all the different levels.
Now, I know that you've had a lot of music growing up, and I know you still have a lot of music today that you listen to, but do you still have a go-to album or maybe a song that you find yourself gravitating back to that you just cannot kick it out? You eventually got to listen to it, man.
Oh, man, that's tough. I think if you went around my band, we're all big fans of Metallica. The Black Album, and just all the old shit. We have fights regularly about which album's the best, and Justice for All, going back to Ride the Lightning and everything. Metallica is one of those bands we just turn on a lot. Grunge era bands like Alice in Chains, we turn on a lot. Got to listen to it. Seven Dust is another band we turn on a lot.
Yes.
And even now, one of our favorite Deftones, definitely one of them, got to have it. And I'd say right now, the newest, they've been around a long time, but the one that's kind of making an impact now, big impact now, that we just turn it on and it just cranks things up for us and got to have it, got to hear it over and over, is Gojira. And we've been loving that. We've been loving that one lately.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the hot seat, Adam. All right, as far as Metallica, what's the best Metallica album?
Oh, dude. That's an impossible question. I won't lie. I'm a fan of the Black Album.
Oh, okay.
Some people might call me a sellout when I say stuff like that. I mean, I love them all. I've seen Metallica probably 40 times. I love Metallica. I used to just go all over and see him as much as I could because I was a monster Lars fan. He was one of my biggest, influences growing up in playing the drums. And you can definitely hear it in some of my music, some of the things that he does. And, the Black Album is just perfect start to finish. You can sing along and it's fun. And it's one of those albums you could just push play, every song. And it's just like awesome. Every single song. So,
man, I wish The God That Failed would have got its chance to got its own video, stuff like that. That song to me is so underrated on that album. So underrated.
And it's the underrated songs on that album that stand out so much, that are so cool.
I got to say Master of Puppets is my favorite one because that saved my life. I mean, that Metallica saved my life. Yes. And that whole album specifically, Master of Puppets, that saved my life.
I get it.
And I've got to see that band one time, and I wish I could see them more, but I'm satisfied.
I know it's one of those things you have to do in your lifetime is see Metallica.
Yeah.
If you want the I think the truest expression of the simplicity and grandness all at the same time of metal, Metallica's it. Four guys plug in and they can take over a fucking stadium and rock it like no others.
Yes, and I'll say this right now. I'll tell anybody and everybody, I do not care. Where I had my experience with Master of Puppets saving my life, when I got to see Metallica and those lights went out, and then you hear the Ecstasy of Gold come on, and the hairs on my arm just stood up. I cried for the first two songs, man. I cried like a baby because it was just so real, and everything come back to me like it was all good. It was all finally just to let go and move on.
Amen.
And it was just so crazy, One day I will have one of them on the show. One day.
Yes, sir. we're actually going on tour with, I think, someone you had on the show. You had, I think, Miles Kennedy on the show.
Yes, sir.
We're going out with Alter Bridge in March.
That is another phenomenal band who, when they transformed over to Alter Bridge, things just got so much better. And in my opinion, I mean, that band just took off.
Much different band.
Totally different band.
And much bigger, much more complex music, much more interesting.
They broadened their horizons, man.
Undoubtedly. They're in Europe right now, killing it.
Adam, how can folks stay in touch with Pistols of Dawn? And folks, like I said, go out and check out their new album, Ascension. Check this out. Grab Nocturnal Youth too. Check out all these singles. But Adam, how can folks stay in touch with you guys? Buy some merchandise, this new album, tour dates when this happens, all that good stuff.
pistolsatdawnband.com, at Pistols at Dawn Band on Facebook, at Pistols at Dawn Official on Instagram. And our new album, Ascension, Nocturnal Youth, our singles, they're all over the internet. You can find them anywhere you download or stream music, and we're grateful. Take a listen to it and really connect with us. Let us know how the music makes you feel. Take a listen to Ascension, communicate with us, and I promise you we'll hit you back. And we're just grateful to be on the show today. We're grateful for the invite, and we'll look forward to coming again soon.
Awesome. And before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Of course. Hey, this is Adam, the drummer from Pistols at Dawn, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and that YouTube link that you want to go subscribe to keep up with everything that we do, because we got giveaways, all these great interviews, but please do that. Also, Check out Pistols of Dawn, this new album that they've got out. We've talked about so much this podcast, Ascension, and the previous EP, Nocturnal Youth, all these singles, everything this band has. Go check it out. Please just go check it out. Adam, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, man, and you're welcome on here anytime you want to.
Thank you, brother. It's been an honor today, and we'll definitely be back soon, I assure you.
Thank you, my friend.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.